What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY in the overall markets. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. Not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends in just a couple of weeks. Anyways, what's happening to Tesla? So, in my video from yesterday, I was saying that Tesla had more upside potential. And as you guys could see, Tesla went from the 390 area all the way up to about 404. So we did push even more. But then I warned you guys in my morning video to watch and see how well do we hold above 400. Because if we had rejected, I was looking for 394 and then 390 is our targets. Instead, what happened was Tesla did reject and went even lower than what I was predicting. So it did get this big move down, and now we're starting to slow down because there's a very, very big sell wall at this 400 area. That's a very psychological area, so it's not really a surprise whatsoever. And simultaneously, the whole market is coming down right now. We had Nvidia selling off because of the Chinese news that came out about the probe that has been opened, and then we're also seeing the S&P 500, the QQQ, they're all selling off right now, and Tesla's following the trend. So that's another factor that's causing this to dip. It's not really a surprise because Tesla did hit the 400 target, but then that's a very psychological move. So there was some news that came out. Bank of America has once again raised their price target. They were expecting the 400s, and so far we did see that. So they were correct about us hitting that. And there is more upside potential because more other analysts also are seeing higher price targets, like in the 470s, 420s, or even the 500s. For example, right over here, the different analysts from the S&P Capital IQ are saying that their price targets range between 421 and as low as like 116, but the median estimate is around $245 a share. But then there's other analysts out there who are saying Tesla has the potential to go up to $500 a share. There's all kinds of like different opinions on it. I think that the reason for that is because fundamentally, based off its earnings and all that, Tesla is technically well above what its fair value should be, at least on paper, right? But the reason why it's so high right now, the reason why Tesla's at such a high value is because it's pricing in these AI developments, especially with the Cybercab coming out very soon. There's a lot of headlines coming out that it should be coming out sometime in the first half of next year. That's going to be very, very huge for Tesla nonetheless. There's also this news right over here about the Chinese sales that came out. Tesla sold about 73,490 vehicles in China in the month of November, which is the highest month of this year thus far. And then also their exports in November, however, were the lowest. So that their exports did go down despite that big increase in the overall sales. So that's something very, very interesting. If you include the exports and everything all together, so it actually adds up to about 78,000, which is still really, really good. Not bad, excuse me, whatsoever. So in total, in just China itself, right, they have about 73,000 sales, and then it goes up to about 78,000 once you include exports. Not bad whatsoever. The Model 3 and Model Y were both very popular, and I think that's great news for them, at least as time goes on. For other pieces of news, we have consumer inflationary expectations that came out. It's very close to expectations. Then we have some build auctions at 11:30 a.m. But besides that, there's not much else that's coming out. So what do I see for Tesla? What are some key levels to watch for? Well, if we go back on the chart historically, the 380 area is going to be a very, very big level. So I'll be watching that very, very closely just to see how well Tesla could hold around there. And the main resistance that I'd be watching for is very close to about 385. That's going to be our main resistance, at least for the time being. So I'll be watching to see how well we could hold at least at that level. So we'll see if 380 holds. If not, I do think that there is a risk of us dipping closer to about the 20 EMA. So if 380 fails us, I think that we could be dipping closer to about this support right here around the 374s. And if 374 fails us, we go all the way down to about 369. So make sure you watch those levels very closely just to see how well we hold up. There is this gap down here. There's a tiny gap all the way down at 369. So I do see a risk of Tesla dipping just a little bit more. That's because the whole market is getting a temporary sell off, but this could be setting us up for a much bigger move to the upside later on. So, yes, we could dip a little bit more, but then I do think Tesla will bounce again, and I think we're going to be completely fine. So, don't worry too much about this. This is completely normal after all the upside we saw. Don't forget, Tesla's up well over 20% compared to where it was just a couple of weeks ago. So, we're up pretty big. with so much upset that happened over the last couple of days, it's completely normal to see a small pullback like this, and that's what the whole market's doing. Also, don't forget it's the entire market; it's not just Tesla. So this is completely normal. So make sure you watch 380 and then 374. If that breaks, we're looking at our 20 EMA at 369. If we attempt to rebound, we want to see Tesla get back above 385. If that breaks, we're looking for essentially 389 and eventually 394. I think that right now Tesla's going to do a little shuffle, but there is a risk of it dipping a little bit lower right now because of how the market's performing. So just be very, very mindful of that. As far as SPY goes, we got a rejection. We actually broke structure right here. So I was talking about how there was a risk of SPY dipping in my morning video, and lo and behold, we got this dip. So 606 failed us. We went all the way down to the next support around 605.5. That's our 20 EMA. And now we're barely holding 605. So if the 605s fail us, we have this gap to fill all the way down towards the 604 area. And if that fails, we go down to 602. 600 to 602 to be more precise. Our resistance is going to be at 605.5. If we get above that, we're looking for 606. And then if that breaks, we're back in this range. As of right now, I favor this gap fill, so I do see more downside potential on SPY, especially as the 4 hours looking weaker. And because we're below our 20 EMA, so SPY is favoring downside. ES is also favoring downside. We called out 60.80 at the very least to be coming, and lo and behold, we did get that target. So if we don't get back above 60.86, I think we favor a move down to 60.63, and I still favor downside for this. For Nvidia, we are favoring downside. We called out the 137 area that aligns with our 200 EMA. So far, we're going to have to see how well we hold around 137 flat. If that fails on Nvidia, we dip all the way down to the support right here around 135. If that holds, we could attempt to rebound closer to about 140. So watch to see if 137 holds, and we'll give this the time it needs. For Bitcoin, Bitcoin is kind of like dipping right here. We did try to grab liquidity at 100 only to come back down. So I could see Bitcoin dipping towards about 96,500. So just keep that in mind. For NQ, we rejected. I did call out how I expected this to retest previous resistance, becoming support around 21,500. I said if that failed, this would be looking for this imbalance down here. So it went lower than this target. It actually went below that, so it's even weaker than expected. And now we're looking for 21,450. If that fails us, there's going to be even more potential downside. So it's still bearish right now. Look at 21,450. If that fails, 21,400 is next, then 21,325. QQQ looks more bearish. We have this resistance to watch for very close to about this, the area right here around this 523.8 area. Since we lost that, so we're looking for 520 as our support. If that does not hold, we have this gap to fill at 517. So watch 520 and 517 as the supports, and we'll have to see how well the QQQ holds up. Apple is on a breakout. I think we had some news that came out. There's going to be, I think there was some news that came out that they're going to be investing more in AI. So that's some good news. And there's other pieces of news as well. 248 is our target. If that breaks, we're looking for 250. And if we reject off 246, we're looking for essentially 244. So keep those levels in mind. I think right now we favor 248 and 250. We still look more bullish. IWM, it pumped and then rejected, right? I was calling out how we had this channel and we'd have to see if we would break out of this or not. Instead, we rejected, so I do see this potentially coming back down to 237. Just a couple more. We have coin, which is range bound between 324 and 312. We could be dipping closer to 312. We'll have to see how it goes. Amazon has this resistance very close to about. Let me just double check this 230 area. So we did test that, but now we're not doing the best of jobs of breaking through it, especially as the market's slowing. This could dip to about 225. Meta, we were expecting it to test 620. I said if that holds, look for a bounce. Instead, it did not hold that. It actually came down below that to some extent. I think they had some negative news that came out involving the legalistic aspect. So look at 608. If that fails, I think we dip closer to 600. We'll see if 608 holds. It does look a little bit more bearish. Microsoft did better than expected. It's just chopping. It reclaimed 444, but now it's just range bound. Excuse me. So I think that there's a good chance that this pushes for 447 as long as we're above 445. And Google's also attempting to rebound with Microsoft, but look at 178 as our resistance. We'll see if we hold above that or not. I think we push closer to 178, but then we'll see if we break that for 180. But it does look a little bit more bullish. So with that being said, guys, there is some weakness on Tesla. It did attempt to push above 400. We did push more and hit my target of 400, but then we weren't able to hold above it, unfortunately. So we're going to be watching to see how well we hold above 380 at this point. Just know that there is a risk of this dipping a little bit more if the market does dip as well. And I do think that there is a higher probability of that. However, I'm not necessarily some kind of like perma bear or anything like that. I think that the market is setting itself up for a bigger move to the upside later on, maybe over the next like couple of weeks. For now, we could see some downside for a day or two, or even a couple of days, and then I do think the market will get bought back up later on. So that's my view. But for now, be prepared for more downside. That's the move for the time being before we see another big bounce later on. Okay. So that's my view for the time being. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a good rest of your day and peace out.